Yeah. Oh, so sad because not only I never went to Portugal, but also a friend of
Mm.
mine was doing like IndieX, which is like this amazing hit
Uh,
studio. Oh yeah. But
next
anyway,
year,
I'll try
next
to
year.
go this year. Yeah, and it's so
Yeah,
close to Web Summit as well. Like I
it
never went to
is.
Web Summit, and they told me great things about it. So it was a little
I think
rough
they
not
initially planned
attending.
it like as a side event to Web Summit. So if you're in town for
Oh,
Web Summit, you can also attend DevGam. It was quite small, I would say. Not super big event, but it wasn't planned to be super big. It was just a very local community of game devs of Portugal, and it was nice. Like many cool people, cool lectures.
oh yeah. I was sad. I was. But anyway, if I could join in every single event, I would just be at it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think if I lived in Europe, my life would be a hell because I would just get it straight up, going to these offices and all this stuff.
There are so many events happening, and there is
Yeah,
literally every month there is something, like several times. So if you go to
yeah, that's
everything,
wonderful.
yeah,
Yeah, but
can be a
eventually,
lot of things.
yeah. And by the way, you came to Brazil a couple times already.
I did, yeah, yeah. I'm going again this year, I think.
Oh,
Um,
that's amazing.
yeah, for the Gamescom Latam,
Oh
the
yeah, not big
former big
festival.
festival. So yeah, yeah.
Hopefully this is like spoiler, but we are thinking on ways to partner with them this year. Last year
Mm,
we got we had a live together, and we also got
hmm.
tickets for the people in the community. So we got like around 10
Oh, that's
passport
cool.
tickets for the mentees
Hmm.
and 6 business credentials for the mentors. So this
Oh, that's
year,
amazing.
uh,
Yeah,
yeah, I
pretty
just
cool.
love those guys as well. But like we are approaching the time, I will usually I just
Yeah.
wait for the 7 p.m. But today I will start a little bit earlier because just when it's like 7, we're already okay, on our way.
No worries. Yeah.
But anyway, it's really simple, really casual. I remember like in the live mentorship that we had here, one of the guys
Hmm.
was really terrified because he
Hmm.
had never like showed in camera, and I said, okay, just be
Hmm. Hmm.
cool and it will be nice, and it was really soft. Like you're just talking here. If we happen to have any questions, nothing to worry
That's
about.
amazing. Yeah, that's how it's supposed to be.
Yeah, yeah. Let me send the message here. Uh, I should. And we also have a chat here, so
Okay.
you like
Hey.
it. Usually people
Yeah.
just keep writing here throughout all the call. Let me just take a look here on LinkedIn.
Hey guys.
So I guess 7, we can get started, and then we will just keep moving. Boa noite, pessoal. I will just do the intro in português.
Yeah, of course, of course.
Boa noite, pessoal. Primeira call, primeira live internacional aí do Mentorias. Como eu falei, a Ana vai falar 100% em inglês. Ela atualmente mora em Portugal. E aí eu vou estar aqui, atuando aqui como um tradutor simultâneo. É bom para vocês praticarem o inglês de vocês. E aí, se vocês não entenderem alguma coisa do que ela apresentar, do que ela falar, vocês podem mandar aqui. E aí, na hora, eu tento fazer esse meio de campo. E no final da live também a gente vai abrir um espaço para perguntas diretas, mais ou menos 10 minutos ou 15 minutos, para vocês mandarem as perguntas e eu também vou ajudar nesse meio de campo. Dando uma introdução rápida sobre o que a gente vai falar hoje. A Ana é uma das sedes de uma plataforma de analytics, de análise de dados para jogos muito boa, que eu já tenho usado há bastante tempo. E a ideia hoje ela vai falar mais sobre como funciona essa questão de dados e também apresentar a plataforma, de como ela funciona, de como você pode aproveitar ao máximo. No final, a gente fez uma parceria onde ela vai dar contos para vocês para utilizarem durante alguns meses de graça a plataforma. A plataforma, para quem não conhece, tem um custo relativamente alto, então acho que vai ser bem bacana para dar acesso para vocês e que vocês possam desfrutar disso. Então vamos começar aqui agora em inglês. We'll switch to English right now. And so first of all, thank you so much, Anna, for the idea. Anna was the one that brought me with the idea of sharing this knowledge with you guys. Anna is almost as Brazilian as I am. She has been to Brazil almost as many times as I. So she already know a lot of uh, Brazilian developers. And please, the first question, I'd like if you could introduce yourself, and then of course
Of course.
the 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 main important question: what is your favorite game?
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for, organizing the whole thing. I really appreciate being here, and I'm very excited to share what I have to share with you guys. Thank you so much for making the time on Valentine's Day of all days. I will be your
Oh,
Valentine for the next 1 hour or so, maybe a little bit less. So yeah, I really appreciate you being here. Thank you very much. My name is Anna. I work at AppMagic. It's my fourth year in the gaming industry, I think, so I'm still relatively new. I joined back in the COVID years, when things were chaos. The life was throwing me from one place to another. I am originally from Russia. I was actually in China when COVID started, so things were very chaotic. I lost my job. I left from China. I had to go back to Russia. So things were really chaotic. And this is when I found the gaming industry, and I'm still here. I'm loving it, and I'm not planning to leave anytime soon. So that's basically the story of how I got into this. My favorite game, I think on mobile, it's super basic. I'm really even embarrassed to tell you. It's called Temple Run. It's super old.
oh
I
yeah.
don't know if you remember. I spent hours there. I think I had like some crazy records there. Temple Run is number one for me still. On PC, there is a game that I really love called Spiritfarer. I don't know if any of you played. It's a very beautiful game. Basically, you are a guardian that takes spirits from the human world to the world of the spirits when people die. And in order to transport them to the spirit world, you need to fulfill their wishes along the way so that they can be at peace. It's a very beautiful game, amazing soundtrack. I recommend 100%. Very peaceful, allows you to relax.
Yeah, I think I
Yeah,
already
I
heard
think
about Spiritfarer.
I think for introductions, this is pretty much it. I'm super excited to share some things with you today. And we can probably get started.
Yeah, 100%.
Awesome. I honestly, I don't have any like super duper formal presentation for you guys. I want to show you some things that I like to talk about with friends, with partners when we're talking about game analytics, because the mobile market, we will be talking about mobile today specifically, is quite complex. There are many things to think about, and it's easy to get lost here. And gaming, we got into gaming because we are passionate about games, right? And like many adults told us when we were kids, choose a profession that you like, choose a profession you're passionate about, and you don't have to work a day in your life. So this is probably why many of us are in games. We grew up loving games. But at a certain point, we reach a stage when it becomes something more than just a passion, something more than just a hobby. It also becomes a product, it also becomes a business. And sometimes it's a little bit hard to take a step back and look at your child, at your game as a product, as a business. How can I bring this to the world? How can I market to the world? And how can I maybe earn a little bit money of it? And we talked with Antonio, we talked actually with many people about this, that there are many amazing resources about the technical aspects of games, how to create art, how to do game design, like how to do level design, many different things, but there are not so many resources about how to look at games from the business perspective. How do I understand the market of games? How do I maybe create a game that can find its audience, that can become big on the market? This is something I want to talk about today. If I had to summarize the content of what I'm going to talk about, it would be something like how to avoid putting a lot of time, money, effort, mental health into something that you plan to be a commercial project, but it might not work out as a commercial project. So basically, how to save yourself a little bit time and resources and improve your chances to create a game that will be a commercial project. Because there are a lot of games that are great, but it's very complex, especially in the mobile world, to make a great game into a great commercially successful game. So I want to share some tips with you. I must say this disclaimer right now. There is no magic fix. If there was a magic fix, we will all be millionaires. So it's not something I'm going to offer to you today. But there are a few simple steps, a few simple things that are important to look at that can significantly increase your chances. And they're not rocket science, as I told to Antonio today when we were preparing for the call. They're not rocket science. They might be something that you already know, but perhaps you haven't thought about it from the perspective that I will talk about today. So let's get started. One thing I want to start with is that when we look at the PC games and when we look at the mobile games, there is a big difference. In the world of data, mobile games are way more transparent. There is way more information about them, and it can be a good thing, it can be a bad thing at the same time. Because on one hand, everybody knows what you're doing. You cannot hide. Everybody knows what games are out there, what kind of revenue do they get, what kind of downloads do they get. On the other hand, the market is extremely difficult, extremely competitive. There is a lot of information everywhere. How do we stay focused? How do we not get lost? How do we focus only on the important things? And what things do I actually need to pay attention to? So let me start sharing my screen. I will try not to be boring, I promise. If I begin to be boring, just write in the chat, like, please, let's talk about something else. So let me just quickly arrange my screen. You see it now?
A little bit is loading on my end.
Uh-huh.
Let's see. Ó, galera aí já inglês voando, é isso aí. Agora, let me see if there's any. Sometimes it's just my connection that is not working. Galera, vocês conseguem ver o compartilhamento de tela? Só para ver se o problema é no meu. Todo mundo consegue ver? Calma, Tem como você. Can you please turn on and turn off and turn on again?
Sure. The main fixing method. Let's try one more time.
Yeah. That one is like the key one that we. I think it's going. Let me see.
How is it?
Most people are saying it's working for them. So in that case, I will just leave it and try to see if that will work here. Just a sec.
Maybe it could be a connection issue. But let's see.
Yeah, it's still loading here. I don't know why. And funny thing, why it's working in some PCs and it's not working on others. That's something is making me. Can you try to go out and come back?
Let's try. Yeah. But now I can't hear you for some reason. I can't hear you. Is it me or? Antonio, I think you're muted.
Oi. Yeah, you can hear me now.
Perfect. Let's try again.
Let's try again.
Can you see it?
It's loading. Yeah. Yeah, probably some people are seeing it. Probably if everyone is seeing it except me, it's okay. We can go for it.
Just let us know in the chat, I think.
Everyone being able to see it mostly. So let's just go.
All right. Okie dokie. So I guess let's start like this. I hope it appears for you later, Antonio. So the first thing I want to start from, to give you like a little bit teaser, there are a few steps, as I mentioned, a few questions that I recommend to look at when you are trying to understand your market, when you are trying to analyze your market. Let's imagine that we are a developer that's trying to think, what kind of game do I want to develop next? I want to choose which game I would like to develop. The question is not very easy because there are many things to think about. But one thing I would recommend you to start with is looking at the market and asking yourself this question. Does this potential game that I have an idea have a market, and how big this market is? To answer this question, take a look at this. Please don't look at any numbers. Don't go too much into detail about what's happening here. I just want you to focus on the colorful areas that we're seeing here. Right now, we are looking at total revenue globally of different genres of strategy games. There are forex strategies, there are real-time strategies, there are card battlers. These are different types of strategy games. And the areas we see on the graph basically represent the total revenues they earn globally from back in 2015 to 2023. So these days, like 2024, basically. One thing that we notice from this graph, take a look at the red area. The red area represents real-time strategy. Take a look how back in 2015, real-time strategy had 60% of the entire strategy games market. This genre was crazy. It had all the market, it had a lot of money. They had like 210 million back in 2015, which is pretty insane. But take a look at how this red area has slowly been declining over the years. If we compare it to other genres of strategy game, we can clearly see that this red area has been slowly losing its market share to others. Mainly, of course, to this blue area, which is 4X strategy games. The red area right now only has around 16% of the market and less money than they had back in 2015. So this market is shrinking and shrinking for many years. What kind of decision, what kind of solution can I how do I understand the information that I see on this graph? Basically, if I'm thinking to develop a game that is an real-time strategy, I might want to think twice, because the market has been declining, which means that with all the given information that we have, we understand that it's statistically very unlikely, the probability is very low that a new game on this market will be able to change the entire trend that has been happening for many years, like 6-7 years at least. And the chances for a game released in this genre would be quite lower than in a game released in some other genre. So to kind of sum up the whole thing here, the first question, does this game have a market and how big the market is? I would recommend to look at the size of genres and how they have been changing over time compared to other genres. Let's take an example. For example, we are a team of developers. We have certain skills. We have certain artists. We have certain skills of game design. We more or less understand that we can develop a game in the genre A, B, C, or D. So when we are deciding, I would recommend you to compare these genres and focus on those that are not shrinking. Focus on the ones that are growing, or focus on the ones that at least are not going down. This will already give you a much better chance than if you develop a game in a genre that's showing a trend like this. This is the first thing. The next step, after we answer the question, does the game has a market? How big is the market? The next question we need to ask ourselves, what does the market that I choose looks like. Imagine, after we did this type of research, we've chosen something. We've chosen to focus on maybe 2 genres that we want to choose from. What I would recommend you to do next is to look, what does the market look like? Basically, it means, who are the other games on this market? Who are the games that I will be competing with if I release a game in this market? Take a look at a few examples that I want to show you. Compare this one. I really hope it's showing for everybody. Let me see. Okay. Yeah. Take a look at this market. These are match 3 games. Right now, we're looking at top 50 match 3 games by revenue globally. What do we see here? Again, don't look at the numbers, don't look at anything, just look at the lines. The lines are almost parallel to each other. We don't really see any significant changes over the last few years. We only see this red area, which is Royal Match, appeared back in 2021. But other than that, Match 3 market hasn't seen any changes whatsoever. What does it tell me if I'm looking at a picture like this? It immediately tells me that this market might be super competitive because the leaders haven't changed for many years. It probably means that it's very hard for new games to enter this market and to compete with the existing leaders. Of course, talking about match 3 games, you might think that, okay, Sherlock, what else can you tell me? Everybody knows that already, but please bear with me. It's an example. Compare this market with this market. These are Idle Tycoons, also top 50 games by revenue worldwide. Idle Tycoon. Compare this picture to this picture. What do we see? We see that the market, first of all, has been growing quite rapidly, especially during COVID, of course, but it dropped just ever so slightly after COVID, and it managed to bounce back after. We see that actually there are many new games appearing over time. Take a look. First, there was this blue area, a game in Japanese that unfortunately I can't read. There was this green area, Idle Mafia. There was this red area, Golden Goblins. There was this another green area, Frozen City. There was this I don't know which color is this, like brown, red area, Isekai. Then there is this area. So we see a lot of changes. We see that the new games that appear on the market over time manage to become bigger than the old games. So they manage to take the market share from the old market leaders, which is actually a great sign. We understand that this Idle Tycoon market, if we compare it to Match 3, is relatively way more friendly to newcomers. It means that the new games that appear on this market have a much better chance to become successful than the games that appear on the Match 3 market. So this is a very interesting thing to consider, and I will talk a little bit about the new games later. There are also markets that look like this. This is chess, top 50 chess games by revenue worldwide. What do we see here? We see that the market is basically monopolized. It's occupied by just one game. And we've seen many examples, like how difficult can it be to develop a chess game, right? The rules, we don't need to invent the rules. The rules are already exist for many years. The gameplay is not very complicated. But take a look at this. There is just one game that earns all the money, and the rest of the games are not even close. And it has been like that since 2015. Things haven't changed at all. I actually went into statistics and I checked over the last year alone, in 2023, there were 70 professional game development teams that made an attempt to develop a chess game, and of course they didn't succeed. What can we learn from this? We can learn that it's important to look at the market. If we see that the market looks like this, we need to have a very good idea why a game that we develop will become successful if the market looks like this. So keep in mind these several examples: the market that looks like nothing is changing, the market that looks like the new games manage to take over, and the market that is completely monopolized. So this is the next step I want you to consider when you are analyzing a market. I've been talking a little bit about the new games here, like the new games manage to take the market share from the old games. And actually, the new games are a very important thing to research, because new games can give you an idea what works and what doesn't work, especially when we are choosing if we want to enter this market or if we don't. I want to show you again an example. This is a list of games. Let me go actually here. This is a list of games in the farming genre, so only farming games, that were released from February 2023 to February 2024. So basically all farms that appeared in the last year. Let's see how many games there were in total. I will go down. There were 130 farms released in the last year. It's actually a normal amount. If you go for match 3 games, you will see like 333 or something like that. So 130, not so bad. Next, when we are looking at the new games, a question I would like you to ask yourself is, how many of the new games actually managed to reach the level of performance that I myself consider good, that I consider to be desirable level of performance for such a game? Of course, good is different depending on which genre we're talking about. If we're talking about RPG games, they're earning like crazy money, millions of dollars. It also takes millions of dollars to develop a game like this. So the expectations for good performance are quite high. If we are talking about a casual game or a hybrid casual game, the expectations for good are different, right? Depending which genre we're talking about. For farming specifically, the genre is quite heavy. I wouldn't say it's extra heavy, but it's heavy. It takes a big team. It takes a couple of years to develop a game of such kind, because it's quite a lot of things to do there. So the expectation for a farming game would be something like, let's say it's good if a farming game manages to earn around $1 million lifetime. So let's see, out of 130 games that appeared on the market, how many managed to achieve $1 million revenue lifetime? We see there were only 3, which is actually not so bad if we compare to other niches. 3 out of 130, not bad at all. But take a look at the games that are in the top. They are sorted by revenue lifetime. All these games are oriented for the Eastern market. We don't even see any English names here. We see the games that are named in Chinese. We see the games that are named in Japanese. They're all Eastern market oriented. If we look at them in details, we see that all the revenue this game is getting is from China. 100% revenues from China. The next game, 76% revenue from Taiwan, 23% of revenue from Hong Kong. The rest is from Malaysia, Singapore. So what kind of conclusion can I make here? Out of all the farms that were released in the last year, the games that are making significant number of revenue are oriented on the Eastern market. The games that are oriented on the Western market, we don't really see them in the top. Only if we scroll down, we just begin to see them like around position number 20, position number 24, and they already have the amount of revenue that is not considered very good for a farming genre, considering how much money it takes to actually develop such a game. So The success rate, 3 out of 130, not so bad, but we understand that Western-oriented games could not really earn anything on this market in the last year. So we might want to think twice. Compare this situation here to the situation the farming games had back in 2021. So I'm selecting January to December 2021. Again, only farming games. There were 24 games appeared on the market that year compared to 130 this year. Out of 24 games, 8 of them managed to earn more than $1 million lifetime, which is pretty much insane. It doesn't happen like ever. This is basically like 30% success rate on the market. It doesn't ever happen. 2021 was a very good year for farming games, apparently. We see that there are still some games that are oriented on the Eastern market, but the majority of games were oriented on the Western market. They get the revenue, the downloads from the Western markets. So back in 2021, it was a good year for farms, but in 2024, 2023, we see that maybe this market, we need to be a little bit careful if we want to develop a game in this genre. So let me sum up a little bit everything that I was talking about so far. To understand the market better, the first question you need to answer is how big the market is and how it has been changing compared to other markets. Is it growing? Is it shrinking? How much money is there compared to other genres? We want to focus on the genres that are growing or on the genres that are at least not declining over time. Next, after we looked at that, we want to know who are the games that are in the genre. Then we look into something like this. Who are the main competitors? How their performance has been changing over time. If the market is very stable, we understand that it's super competitive and it might be very hard to enter. If there are some new games appearing on the market and it looks like this, they manage to actually take the share from the old leaders, then it's a very good sign. Avoid the markets that look like this because they can be really, really hard to work in. And after all this, I recommend to look at the new games, at the recent games that appeared. Let me go back to last year. Take a look not only at successful games that appeared, but also take a look at the games that couldn't achieve the level of performance that you consider good. This is also very important because imagine you see a game that did exactly what you are thinking to do right now. This is immediately like a reality check for us. We understand that they did exactly the same thing that I'm planning to do right now, and apparently it didn't work. So how can I approach it? How can I think about it? How can I change it to make it work? It's very important to consider the games that couldn't reach the desired level of performance as well, because if you don't consider them, you're basically ignoring a lot of great ideas that were tried. They unfortunately couldn't succeed, but it allows us also to better understand what we want to do and what we don't want to do for our own game. We talked about the market a lot, and by this point, if you follow these steps, you should already have a pretty good idea what kind of markets you are dealing with, what kind of competition you are dealing with, which markets are a little bit more friendly, which markets are a little bit less friendly. What I want to talk about next is the user acquisition. And actually, the new games on the market that we see and that we see that they fail, the reason why they don't grow on a certain market, there can be many reasons actually, but essentially it all comes to one thing. It means they couldn't scale. And if they couldn't scale, it means they couldn't compete for traffic. Because unfortunately, the reality that we're dealing with on mobile is there is no such thing as free traffic in mobile games. It's very, very rare when a game manages to bring a lot of organic traffic. It's more of an exception than a rule. And if we're developing a game, we cannot really count on having a lot of organic traffic coming into our game. So we need to focus on the genres that show us from all the data which we see that they actually can compete for user acquisition. They can compete with other genres for the users to come to the game. This is when the advertising analytics becomes very important. There are a lot of things to talk about, but I want to keep it like quite simple today. One thing that I want you to think about when we're talking about advertising, the whole thing, is creatives. The videos that you run through ad networks to bring your users into the game. Ad creatives can be very important because a good creative can bring a lot of players into your game. A good creative will convert a lot of users to download your game. To prove you that I'm not lying, take a look at this graph. Oh, I lost my headphone. I'm sorry. Here we go. Take a look at this graph. This is Playrix, combined performance of all games of Playrix. Again, don't look at the numbers, just look at the shape of the blue area that we see here. Do you see this giant peak? The giant peak, apart from the COVID years that happened a bit later, the peak happened around the time when Playrix discovered misleading creatives. Misleading creatives are the creatives that we have all seen on our social media, on Instagram, on Facebook. Save the girl, build a tower, bring the guy from level 1 to level 100. The videos that have nothing to do with the actual game. They don't look like the real game. The features inside this video have nothing to do with the actual game. But surprisingly, they convert very well. And what's even more surprising is that users actually stay in the game after they download it, even if the video that they saw is completely different from the game itself. So, long story short, creatives are important. A good creative can convert a lot of users to your game. When we are talking about creatives, it's usually all about testing and trying because nobody really knows what works. If you're at Playrix, you have 100 people just producing videos. And I'm not joking, they have like 100-something people just making videos. We are not Playrix, I'm not Playrix. We don't have 100 people to make videos. So we need to be smart about it. We can't afford to spend so much time, so much money to test this many creative ideas. And what do? How I recommend to approach it, we can take a look at our competition that we discovered back here, and we can try and see what kind of creatives have already proved that they work for them. And then we can take those ideas, we can adapt them to our game and see if it works for us. Saves a lot of time, right? How do we do it? Take a look here. I'm looking right now. Oh, actually, let me go here first. I'm looking at Royal Match, any game, honestly. What I see here is basically a list of videos that Royal Match is using to advertise its game. I can play them, and I can download them if I want to. What I want you to focus on is this number right here. This says 50 million something, this says 18 million something, like 7 million something. This is the number of impressions. Basically, it's our estimate how many times this specific video was viewed. As we talked before, there is no such thing as free traffic. If this video was viewed, it means that Royal Match paid for it. It paid for it to be viewed by users. The Royal Match paid to promote this video. If this video had so much views, it means that Royal Match paid a lot of money. If they paid a lot of money, it probably means that this video is working well. Because in the perfect world, Royal Match wouldn't waste so much money on something that doesn't work very well. So the idea here is that the ads that you see at the top have the most impressions. It also probably means that they're performing the best. We're looking at the recent creatives. This is last 90 days. We can look at last 2 weeks, last month, and so on. We can take those ideas. We can try to see if it works for us, if we're working in the same genre. Even a better approach, we don't have to check every game one by one. We can go here, and I can select the genre. We were talking about farming games a lot today, so let me go into farming games. Out of all games that are farming games, which advertising is working best? These are the creatives that have been working best recently for farms. So we don't have to focus on just one game at a time. We can look at all farming games at once. Another cool thing that you can do, you can focus not just on the best ads, you can also focus on the new ads. If you sort them by date, here at the top, you will see the ads that are very, very new, the ads that we just found recently. The fact that they're new means that this is something they're testing right now. This is a very good way to look for new ideas because, you know, as soon as there is a good idea that works, everybody begins to copy each other. And when everybody copies each other, the creative becomes like it loses its power very quickly. So in order to find good ideas early and use that while they're still good, this could be a very good approach to look at this. So I think there are a lot of things that I can talk about, but I don't want to go too much into detail. Without going too much into detail, these were probably the main things that I wanted to talk about today. And now I want to stop talking for a moment. And guys, if you have any questions, if something wasn't clear, if you would like to ask me something, please go ahead. I will do my best to answer.
Thank you so much. It was great. Like, as someone that has been using AppMagic for a while, it was great to really understand more about what insights can we get from it. And one of the best insights, actually, Fernanda, I think, no, Felipe got, that was how can we like interpret the different metrics? Because, for example, you
Mm-hmm.
were telling about RTAs that had
Mm-hmm.
less revenue. However, they had more downloads. So how can
Mm-hmm.
you see what is it like if they have more downloads but they have less revenue? I see you also have a very unique metric that is presence score. What does that mean in the country featuring
Uh-huh.
score? So can you talk a little bit about the different metrics that
Oh,
you can take info from?
that's a very good question, actually. And it's a very good detail that you notice that some games have a lot of downloads, but we don't really see a lot of revenue. When we see a case like this, it probably means that the revenue they're getting is not coming from in-app purchases, because the revenue that AppMagic can see is only in-app revenue. So only the revenue that goes inside the game, like all the like things that I buy inside the app. Let's say I want to buy no ads, I want to buy something else. All the purchases that I make inside the game, that we can see. The revenue that the game actually comes from gets from advertising, we don't see. This is a big thing that we're missing for now. It actually should appear in the platform later, but you know how, especially like hyper casual games, they advertise a lot. You see a lot of ads running inside the game. They're getting a lot of money from it. If a game has a lot of downloads and we see that theoretically, it should also have a lot of revenue, but we don't really see that in AppMagic. It means that majority of revenue is probably coming from advertising. It's a certain model of monetization. It can be different. Some games, mostly core games like RPGs, like strategies, they don't really use ads as like a method to earn money inside the game. They only use like things inside the app where you can buy armor, you can upgrade your character, and so on. But as we're going more towards hybrid casual, hyper casual, that's a very different monetization model. They rely on ads a lot, so a lot of money will be coming from there. And unfortunately, that's something we don't see yet. I hope I answered. For other metrics, if I didn't, tell me. I will try to explain better.
No, it
For other
was
metrics, uh-huh.
sorry, no, it was just great. And I think the insight that we can get from this is like taking a look at what the competitors are doing. So, for example, you see if you want to build the game in this particular genre for this level of development, you can see if what works in monetization here is in-app purchases or is ads. Because like if the
Exactly.
best players are the the build that you're aiming for are monetizing with ads, that means your audience it's more suitable for ads than for buying things.
Exactly. And it's actually very interesting to look at in the genres, especially like runner games or brain puzzle games. Those games used to be very casual before. Temple Run, my favorite game, it's a casual game. But
Mhm.
we see that many games that are runners or brain puzzles are actually more hybrid casual or hyper casual now. They switched a little bit naturally because it's more captivating, it's more interesting to play them when they're built like this, and basically they get a lot of money from advertising, and they have a lot of downloads. We see a lot of downloads, but we don't see a lot of revenue in the platform. So it's interesting. Sometimes we can see a shift inside a genre. There's a bunch of games that are casual that are getting money from in-app purchases, and there is a different bunch of games that are more relying on advertising revenue, and it can be either of that. For other metrics, featuring, something that you mentioned, is actually, I think I need to share my screen back to explain this a little bit better. Let's go somewhere here. So if you look at the top charts, top free, top grossing, this is pretty straightforward. We take it from the stores, basically. Top featured, this is something that we sort of invented ourselves. Let me open some game, like Royal Match. Out of the metrics here, you have like basic revenue downloads. You also have featuring. What is featuring score? Featuring score is a fake number. It doesn't exist. It's something we invented. You can measure it in oranges. It's something that we tried to put into a number to estimate what kind of power a certain featuring can bring to this game. What is featuring in general? Do you know when you open iOS or Google Play Store, you will see some kind of like collections. Our like editor's choice 10 top 10 simulation games, or this is game of the week, or this is game of the day, something like this. This is called featuring. Basically, when a game is showcased in some kind of collection, in some kind of banner, it's called featuring. Featuring, it used to be one of the important, it still is actually one of the important ways how a game can get some organic traffic. Because if a user comes into a store, maybe he wasn't planning to download a game, but then he sees the game featured, he just goes ahead and downloads it. So that's great. Games negotiate with platforms, with Google Play and with iOS, to get featured on the store. Featuring can be different in different countries. You can get featured in different places. If you look at the game, for example, in AppMagic, we have this tab called featuring. and you can see where exactly this game was featured on any specific day. So Royal Match, let's say, was featured in Japan. This is the kind of score they got. Depth, row, position, basically how many clicks you need to make. Depth is line number 2. No, 2 clicks. Row is how many lines, like line number 4. Position from the left, 1, 2, 3 from the left. The type, so this is basically just some information where exactly the game was featured. The score is our attempt to estimate how powerful that featuring was. If you are somewhere very deep, not so easy to find, the power of that featuring is not very high. Also, depending which country you get featured in, this power can be stronger or it can be a little bit less strong. For example, everybody wants to be featured in the United States because it's one of the main markets. The users from the United States bring the most money, so that featuring is the most valuable, the most powerful. So AppMagic tries to put a number, basically, to help you understand which featuring was more powerful, which featuring was less powerful. You can also compare different games to one another. Let's say, let me do like this. We say that Royal Match actually gets featured more significantly than Monopoly Go does. What does it mean for us? Let me remove Royal Match. I can try to look at featuring at the same time with downloads the game is getting. I'm now looking at worldwide. It's better if I go to some specific country, for example, US. Sometimes we see that, let me do like this. We see that there was, so the red one is featuring, the blue one is downloads. Sometimes we see a peak in featuring like this, and at the same time, we see a peak in downloads. So we can understand that perhaps the featuring actually brought a lot of users into the game. So it was a very good placement and it helped the game a lot. In case of Monopoly Go, we don't really see that. We see that there were quite a few peaks for featuring, but we don't really see any peaks in downloads at the same time. So probably featuring didn't really matter a lot for this game. It can depend a lot on the app, on the game we're talking about, because if you're Instagram and if you're featured, everybody already knows Instagram, so featuring doesn't really make a lot of sense. But if you're a smaller game, featuring can actually be very good for you. So looking at this metric, looking how it matches with downloads can sometimes tell you which type of featuring is better, or which game gets featured more strongly or less strongly. Does it affect the downloads or it doesn't? So this is probably the main use of this information, of this metric in AppMagic.
So the last question we got is there a way to analyze a decreasing graph as an opportunity rather than a danger of the market being saturated?
Decreasing graph as an opportunity rather than a danger. Let's see. Are we talking about a genre? Let's say we're looking at the size of the genre, or we're looking at a specific game, because I think it depends. I can talk about both actually. So if we're looking at a decreasing line, the genre, so let's say the summary of revenue of all games in this genre, or the summary of downloads of all games in this genre, it can still mean that there are some games that are doing well and some games that are not doing well. The overall trend is going down. So I would say it's concerning, but it doesn't mean that there are no games in this genre that are still making decent money. However, if we're thinking to work in that genre, to start working in that genre, if we don't have a lot of experience, if we don't know exactly what we're doing, which will make our game successful, I would say be a little bit careful. There are, it's actually a very interesting question, and we discuss this a lot with friends, internally. We usually suggest you this approach, like very careful, very based on data to choose which game you want to develop. But at the same time, the most games that blew up the market, that created like crazy innovations, did everything the opposite of what I'm telling you to do right now. Like the games that blew up the internet were the guys who innovated. They created something crazy. They created something new that didn't exist before. Uh, However, I always say that you need to be very careful because this is not a rule. This is an exception. The overall statistics, if I become boring for a second, overall statistics out of all games that were released on the market in the last year, the success rate, what we consider for now as a successful game, if it's earning 100,000 revenue in a month. So the percent of games that managed to achieve this level was 0.6. This is basically the success rate we can expect if we don't do any market research, if we just go ahead and develop something. The success rate is very low, the risks are very high. But if we look at the numbers, if we choose a genre that looks like it might have better chances than the other genre, then you immediately automatically increase your chances and it becomes much higher than 0.6. What would be the average expectations if we don't do any market research whatsoever?
I think that makes sense. That makes sense. Let me see. Evandro is typing, so let me see if he has anything
Mm-hmm.
more to add. Can you hear me? Okay, I guess you can hear me. So I wanna thank you so much for the whole presentation and for giving the insights. Hopefully, we managed to record that. So as soon as you have it, I'll send your way. And also, as the grand finale, what we had, if you want to talk more about the promo codes and how could people have access to the platform.
So yeah, we promised, and we have a little bonus surprise for you guys. Um, if you would like to try to do similar things yourself, or if you would like to try and explore what else is there on the platform, there are a lot of things that I didn't talk about, but they will be all available to you basically because we would be happy to share some codes with the access. It will open 1 month of access for you, no limits. So you can use the tool. You can like try to use the approach that I showed you today. If you have any questions, you're more than welcome. Please text me on LinkedIn. I can give you my email. Please text me anywhere. I will be happy to help. If you need help, like analyzing some data, interpreting some data, please also let me know. I will be happy to help. Um, if you would like to have access to the tool, please text me or please text Antonio and we will share the codes with you.
That's wonderful. I have been using for the last months and have been so useful to me. E então, para finalizar aqui, galera, voltando um pouquinho para português, só para agradecer de novo a Ana. E o que ela falou agora no final é: vocês acabaram de ver como a plataforma funciona. Ela tem uma versão 100% gratuita, que tem algumas limitações, mas em parceria com Mentorias, ela vai disponibilizar um mês gratuito para todos vocês que queiram ter acesso à plataforma. Para ter acesso a essa plataforma, basta mandar uma mensagem para mim aqui no Discord, que até o final da noite a gente vai começar a distribuir esses códigos promocionais. Então, muitíssimo obrigado pela presença de todos. Thank you so much, Anna, today,
Thank you very
and
much,
hopefully
guys.
we'll get the second and the third round in a while.
Awesome, awesome. Thank you so much. Enjoy your day, enjoy your evening, and it was a pleasure. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thank you, guys.
Have a good
Bye
night.
bye. Good
Bye.
night. Bye bye.